Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Yoga for the Creative Soul book club as we're moving forth from chapter 3, which had us investigating our self perception and how we navigate our identities and personalities in the world as spiritual beings and as creative beings. And moving on into chapter 4, called Toward and Away. And in this chapter, we're working through this, all of this part one of Yoga for the Creative Soul. We're working through the psychological hindrances, the states of mind that limit our creative freedom, that limit us in living into our potential as spiritual beings. From ignorance, forgetting that we are spiritual and creative beings in the first place, through egoism, identifying, over identifying, or shadow identifying, which would be I'm not that. Those concepts of self can really get in our way. And now we're on to the limitation or obstacle of attachment. And in their own way, every spiritual tradition acknowledges attachment as a hindrance to a deeper sense of connection to ourselves, to our spiritual lives, to the expressive being that we are. For those of you not attending live today, what you weren't privy to in the discussion was the ideas that were coming through in terms of landing in our bodies, coming home to who we truly are in our physical selves, as well as our roles in our family units and society at large. And what's really interesting for us to keep in mind is that this entire journey is not an all or nothing journey. Sure, we can look at, did I do my morning pages today? Yes or no. Did I do my drawing a day today? Yes or no. Did I meditate? Did I do my practice? Those things land at yes and no. But questions like, am I fully present? Am I in my body? Are my senses aware of this moment? Those questions tend to land on a spectrum of answers. So that idea of, am I fully present? Our entire capacity to be fully present is different day to day. So the answer might be yes on Thursday, and it might be a completely different lived experience from Monday or from Saturday. That each day, the combination of thoughts, feelings, physical well-being, connection to spirit are going to change. We're ever-changing beings. I mean, take a deep breath. And then take another deep breath. Those breaths are going to be experienced differently. Moment to moment, we're changing. And the beauty of continued practice is that it allows us to be sensitive to those changes. I have more energy today. The ideas are really flowing today. I want to kick the wall today. Like we can just be sensitive to how different we are day to day, and that sensitivity is the awareness. That sensitivity is the spiritual being. It's not about always being blissed out or completely free from these hindrances or states of mind that might plague us. It's about being able to connect to the part of ourselves that witness those things and watch them, because they're constantly changing, even when we're in dips, in anger, going through something externally and or internally. That's part of being an embodied creature. The witness is that more steady, neutral aspect of ourselves that can remind us that some of the gift of being an embodied being is the changing state. At the very least, there's interest there. We don't wish pain upon ourselves or others, but when it's present, it's just its own quality of interest. The observer self is neutral enough that our witness self can see it that way, as a blip, as interest, but not as something that needs to completely take us down, ruin us forever. Even if there are phases of ruination in the cycle of creation, we understand that we tear things down to build them anew. And that's also part of the process of being an embodied creature. So as we're contemplating these ideas, and I'm throwing a lot out there in the context of yoga. Even in this discussion, we've already touched on probably 15 different yoga sutras, right? So always when you're participating in these workshops, take what makes sense, leave the rest behind. If I'm throwing a lot out there, it's because it's bits and pieces for this person and bits and pieces for that person. So just take your own little gems or points of use. But as I'm talking about the ever-moving range of experiences of presence, of being connected to who we truly are, what I'd ask of you is to take what had been crossing your mind through this listening and depict it somehow. Maybe you're going to depict the ups and downs. Maybe you're going to depict the cycle of destruction and creation. Maybe you're going to depict yourself that feels things so deeply in relation to your witness self who can remain objective within the storm of those feelings, or the rainbows of those feelings, as it may be, whether you're up or down in that moment. But a lot of ideas were present here. Just depict in some way how you yourself were thinking and feeling about the ideas so far. This can be a descriptive paragraph of yourself that can feel fully embodied or embodied to varying degrees. This can be a theme and variations, where the theme is the objective witness and the variations in the tune is the ever-changing personality self. So many different ways to play with these ideas. And as you are scripting this, dancing this, doodling this, I'd ask that you add some kind of symbol, note, gesture that represents the concept of non-attachment. So we're entering gently into chapter 4, toward, in a way, non-attachment right now, but also, attachment and aversion as they work together. We'll get through over coming weeks. But add some symbol, something that represents non-attachment into this expressive practice. And that doesn't have to be the dictionary definition of non-attachment. It doesn't have to be the Buddhist, the Hindu, the yogic definition. This is what non-attachment is to you today, how it's showing up in this moment. Now we've had a chance to share here together the variety of ways that folks have been depicting these ideas and interfacing with attachment, non-attachment, the comings and goings of our material reality. To round it out, let's take it into the body. So I would encourage you, if it works for you in the space that you're in, I'd encourage you to stand. And sometimes when we stand, we go proper stacked mountain, right? Finding the tripod of the foot and feeling the ankle stable, sensation equal front and back of the legs, knees over ankles, hips over knees, ribs over hips, shoulders over ribs, earlobes over shoulders. If it feels more natural, you can experiment with broadening that base, coming into more of a triangle, tripod security with your base. And then take a few breaths to settle into the relationship between your body and the earth. From that settling, become more conscious of three-dimensional space. So not just your relationship between body and earth, but also your relationship with the space on either side of your physical form, left and right. Your relationship with space above the head. Can you sense into that? And sometimes we just lift out of the crown chakra and sense into it. Sometimes we imagine from the low belly down into the earth, down through the legs, down into the earth, up through that astral channel of the spine, midbrain, out the head, and sometimes that lift along that central channel and all the way up is how we sense space above us. And then sensing space through the front of your being. Just perceiving a little bit beyond the face, a little bit through and beyond the chest, the abdomen, fronts of the legs, beyond the tips of the toes, front of the body, frontal space. And this does, in some ways, require imagination. A lot of the time when we're perceiving energy, prana, we are doing so through imagination, whether that's visualization, auditory, kinesthetic sense. There's as many ways to do it as there are people, but we're not so much experiencing material reality, and that's okay. And then noticing through the back of the body as well. Your body's relationship with space. As we are threading attachment, non-attachment through this journey today, you might also notice preferences, preferences eventually becoming attachments and aversions. So maybe it's nicer to sense the ground and feel that way. Maybe you prefer the front to the back, and even laterally, left side, right side, is there a side that is easier, more welcoming to perceive into? And we're not trying to change anything. We're just noticing this as we come home to the body. Imagine yourself breathing with your entire physical form. You can begin to apply movement here, raising and lowering the arms with the breath, bending and straightening the legs with your inhales and exhales. We're aiming to imagine the breath flowing through the entire body. So when you inhale, you're inhaling simultaneously to every cell and every structure. And when you exhale, you're exhaling from every point of your physical form. Letting imagination rule here, trusting your felt sense or the passing feelings. If there are places that seem resistant to the breath or that are harder to breathe into, tighter, more constricted, if the energy's not quite with you, that's okay. Just continue to the best of your abilities to breathe with your entire body. And we'll make this a little broader. So elbows in line with shoulders, feet double shoulder width apart. And when you inhale, straighten those elbows. Your arms are opening to the sides and simultaneously the knees are bending. Inhaling a knee bend and an opening at the elbows, and exhaling, straightening the knees and bending those elbows back in. Hands coming close. Inhaling, dipping towards the earth and broadening the upper body, still breathing into every cell. And exhaling, hands towards chest, legs straight. This time, we inhale open, and we're going to hold the position. So palms facing forward here as you hold the position, just breathing with knees bent and arms open, palms forward. And do what we did a moment ago. Sense, ground, above, sides, front, back. And from this knees bent, arms open position, let your body flow into a position that it's seeking. It doesn't have to be a yoga pose, but it can be. Just let yourself move through that three-dimensional space, still breathing into and out of every part of you. So you're letting every part of you make this movement decision or these movement choices if you're staying fluid and continually moving. Basically, doing what you like. And then reel it back in. You can settle to a mountain pose as a neutral position, or you can keep those legs wide and just stand for a moment, landing into the body. Breath is your guide, your anchor. And then we'll play again where we were a moment ago, elbows in line with the shoulders, palms at the chest, legs straight. And as you inhale, open at the elbows, the arms reaching out to the sides, knees bending. And exhaling, bending the hands back in, straightening the legs. Inhaling, arms straightening out to the sides, knees bending, breathing with your entire body. Exhaling from all of your cells back to center. Inhaling, opening the arms, bending the legs. Finding a nice safe place where you can hold this for a few breaths. We'll just hold on here again. Scanning in this position, below and above, alongside, front and back. And without moving yet, acknowledge what the body wants to do next. And here's this next cue, just make it make sense in whatever way you can. Do the opposite. So rather than moving into the like, move into the dislike. And do some movements. Typically we sequence in a way that makes sense and comfortable. Now you're not going to do anything that harms you. Don't go into the realm of physical discomfort or potential injury. But whatever your body's asking for, do the opposite thing. So your body wants to stretch wide open, come in instead. You want to move forward with your right foot, move backwards with your left foot. There's a little bit of creativity even in how we oppose ourselves. But the idea is we're playing into dislike. Very easy for us to move into our likes, right? Very easy to move towards attachment. It's like a magnet, it's drawing us anyway. very counterintuitive to move into dislike, to move into aversion. Aversion by its nature is repellent, the magnetic force that won't let us come into it. And so we're not sticking with the dislike for too much longer, just maybe one more opposition and then back to neutral. And if it's comfortable and makes sense for you to get to that mountain pose where we started, stacked mountain or wide-legged mountain, either will do. And notice the after effects of playing with dislike. Notice the after effects of opposing your intuitive movement. So at first we're noticing that with the personality, right? At first it's the ego that runs its checkpoints and has its analysis. Earlier today, we invoked the witness as well, the neutral and objective part of ourselves. The witness is highly adept at ignoring attachment and ignoring aversion. Is that cultivated? Yes, that takes practice. But the practice is getting to know the witness. The witness really has this skill already. So from your witness self, from objectivity, is there anything else to acknowledge about doing what you didn't like? And how is your breath as you're contemplating that? Can we remain connected to dislike and still feel grounded and held in three-dimensional space, above, laterally, front and back? And you might notice quite quickly that the attachments and the aversions fade, that returning to neutral is its own comfortable reset. We build attachments to the familiar and to routines. And later in the chapter, we'll even talk about how addiction plays into that, that it's something simultaneously wanted and unwanted. And how can we navigate the physical and mental health implications of that? How can our creative selves help us? But for now, very low-key practice, just revolving around movement. I'd ask you to go to your expressive depiction, draw two ovals, and in the first oval, the depiction of yourself moving in ways you like, sequencing that based on what the body wants and was asking for, and then a depiction of moving with the opposites. Not what you wanted to do, but maybe what you didn't want to do, or the opposite of what you wanted. So two ovals on the page, one the game of attachment we were playing, and one the game of aversion that we were playing. And as always, you can depict this through scribbles, through color, through symbols. This is meant to be very free, to give it a little extra if you feel like it today. You can experiment with depicting this via your non-dominant hand. Sometimes unexpected pieces of emotion or insight will come through when old bossy side gets out of the picture. The non-dominant hand doesn't have the same fine motor abilities, but almost because of that, it's lighting up the brain differently and allowing a different, deeper kind of process to come through. And you're welcome to continue with your expression. I'm just going to guide you through a summary breathing practice. Earlier, we were imagining breathing with the entire body as a whole unit. So we'll do a little energy cleansing breath to round us out today. Imagination again. So if you can't quite capture it, just ask yourself, if I could sense this, what might it feel like? If I could imagine this, what might that be like? And begin by imagining yourself breathing as if through a blowhole in the soles of the feet. The exhales, letting go of what you don't need out the feet into the earth where it's neutralized. You're inhaling that fresh filtered energy through the soles of the feet. Just trusting it travels to wherever it needs to go in the body to create more clarity and health. And sending the breath to the base of the torso, tailbone, perineum, cervix. Exhaling from the base. Inhaling to it, balancing a sense of safety, groundedness, comfort in the home of your body. Inhaling simultaneously into the sacrum and the low belly. Exhaling from that space. Anything toxic that you're exhaling is gathered by the elements and neutralized. So you can pick an element: fire, water, earth, air, ether. Coming home to your intuition, trusting your feelings. And moving awareness to the base of the rib cage, front and back. Knowing that what you exhale is purified by that element you selected. And as you inhale, you're balanced in your purpose and your identity. Fortifying your trust of this life. Awareness to the space between the shoulder blades and the center of the chest. Balancing your connection to joy. The ability to move through grief. And center on spiritual emotions. Love, compassion, bliss. So awareness moves to the throat center, corresponding place at the back of the neck. Clarifying your creative voice, your ability to perceive the truth without it throwing you off. Much balance in communication. Awareness from the midbrain through the center of the forehead and back of the head. Releasing confusion. Inhaling balance, mental quietude, openness. And breathing as if through a blowhole at the center of the top of the head. Perceive a connection to higher reality, authentic self, the magic of life. And not only up and down with the breath out the crown, but also showering like a fountain around you in all directions. Perceive yourself as held in an energy egg. The sparkling light of this fountain, the way a sprinkler will catch sunbeams and turn them into rainbows, within and around you. And keep the connection to the layers of yourself, your body, and also your energy, thoughts and feelings, that objective witness which guides you to your creative spiritual self. Keep those connections alive as you go through your week. And I look forward to connecting next Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern, or a bit before that if you want to reach out to me, email or social media. Thanks, everybody.